Welcome back to IELTS time, everyone. Today we're looking at a Speaking Part 2 topic. Describe a toy you liked in your childhood. You'll hear two different responses, and after each one, I'll walk you through the key points to show how the answer connects to the cue card. Before we finish, we'll also look at some useful vocabulary for this topic. Let's begin with the first response from Joseph.
One toy I really liked in my childhood was a remote-controlled car that I got when I was about 8 years old. It was a medium-sized red racing car with a rechargeable battery, and at the time, it felt incredibly advanced to me. It was actually a birthday gift from my parents, and I still remember being more excited about that toy than the birthday cake. They bought it because I had been obsessed with cars and racing games, so it matched my interests perfectly. I used to play with it almost every day, especially in the evenings and on weekends. I would race it around the living room, set up small obstacle courses using books and shoes, and sometimes take it outside to see how fast it could go on the pavement. I even pretended I was controlling a real car, which made the experience more immersive and fun. The main reason I liked this toy so much was that it gave me a sense of control and independence. Unlike simpler toys, it required skill and coordination, and I enjoyed improving over time. Looking back now, I think it also helped develop my hand-eye coordination and creativity. Even though it eventually broke, it remains a very vivid and positive memory from my childhood.
All right, so that was Joseph's response. Now let's look at how his answer fits the cue card. Joseph starts by clearly identifying the toy as a remote-controlled car and adds a few concrete details so we can picture it easily. He then explains who gave it to him by mentioning that it was a birthday present from his parents and links that choice to his interest in cars. When he talks about how he played with the toy, he gives specific examples instead of speaking generally, which makes the memory feel real. Finally, he explains why the toy mattered to him by focusing on how it made him feel and what he gained from playing with it, rather than just saying it was fun. Now let's move on to the second response from Blondie.
To be honest, I had a mountain of toys growing up, but if I have to pinpoint the one thing that really defined my childhood, it would have to be this elaborate wooden dollhouse I had. It was a classic 2-story set with tiny furniture and a whole family of little velvet textured animals that lived in it. My parents gave it to me for my 7th birthday, and I still remember the excitement of finding it tucked away in the living room with a big red ribbon on it. I was a bit of a perfectionist even back then, so I didn't just play with it in a messy way. I basically managed it. I'd spend hours meticulously arranging the tiny kitchen utensils or setting up these elaborate dinner parties. It was all about the storytelling for me. I'd create these complex little dramas where the characters were visiting neighbours or hosting a big holiday meal. I think I loved it so much because it felt like a tiny, controllable world. As a kid, so much of your day is dictated by adults, but within those walls, I was the one in charge of the narrative. It wasn't loud or flashy like the gadgets kids have today. It was just very tactile and soothing. Looking back, I'm pretty sure that toy is what first sparked my interest in things like design and organisation.
So that was Blondie's answer. Let's step back for a moment and walk through how she covers each part of the cue card. Blondie begins by clearly identifying the toy as a wooden dollhouse and adds details about its structure and accessories to help us visualise it. She then explains who gave her the toy by mentioning that it was a birthday present from her parents and recalls the moment she received it. When she talks about how she played with the dollhouse, she focuses on organising, arranging, and storytelling, which shows how she interacted with it. Finally, she explains why she liked it by describing the sense of control and comfort it gave her, and by connecting it to her personality and creativity. Now that we've looked at both responses individually, let's take a step back and look at them together. At first glance, these two answers feel very different. Joseph talks about a fast, physical toy, while Blondie focuses on something quiet and imaginative. But if you look more closely, both speakers are doing the same important thing. They choose one clear way of interacting with the toy and build their answer around that. Joseph's answer is driven by action. He talks about racing the car, setting up obstacles, and improving his skills. Blondie's answer is driven by imagination. She describes storytelling, organisation, and creating a small world she could control. Every detail they include supports that main idea. This is something you can copy in your own answer. Instead of listing everything you did with a toy, decide what role it played in your childhood. Was it about movement, creativity, comfort, or competition? Once you've chosen that focus, your answer will feel more natural, connected, and easier to extend. Before we finish, let's spend a few minutes on vocabulary you can use for this topic. We'll go through several slides, and for each one, I'll explain the words and show you exactly how they can be used in your own answer. Let's start with words you can use to describe the toy itself. Remote-controlled refers to a toy that you operate from a distance using a controller. For example, you could say, I had a remote-controlled car that I could steer with a handheld device. The word wooden is useful for traditional toys and means the toy is made mainly from wood. A natural sentence would be, the dollhouse was wooden, which made it feel solid and long-lasting. Finally, miniature means very small but detailed. You might say, it came with miniature furniture that looked like real household items. Now let's look at phrases that help you explain how you played with the toy. Set up obstacle courses means creating paths or challenges for a toy to move through. For instance, I used to set up obstacle courses using books and shoes and race the car through them. Act out stories is used when you imagine toys as characters in a story. A good example would be, I would act out stories where the dolls were visiting neighbours or hosting parties. The phrase pretend to be is useful when you imagine yourself in a role. You could say, I pretended to be a professional race car driver when I played with the car. When the cue card asks why you liked the toy, it's helpful to talk about feelings and personal impact. A sense of control is about being in charge of what happens during play. For example, you could say, the toy gave me a sense of control because I decided what the characters did and how the story developed. Independence refers to doing something on your own without help. For example, playing with this toy gave me a feeling of independence because I could set it up, play with it, and solve small problems on my own. Comforting describes a toy that makes you feel calm or relaxed. For instance, you might say, I found the toy comforting because it helped me relax, especially when I played quietly by myself. These expressions help you talk about the past smoothly. At the time is used to describe how you felt in the past. For example, at the time the toy felt very advanced. Looking back is used when you reflect on the past from your current perspective. You could say, looking back now, I realise that the toy helped me develop my creativity. Finally, growing up refers to your childhood years. A natural sentence would be, growing up, this was the toy I spent the most time with. As you practice this topic, try choosing a few of these words and building your own sentences with them. If you focus on clarity and personal meaning, you'll find it much easier to speak naturally about a toy from your childhood. If you found this lesson helpful and want more guided speaking practice like this, consider joining our membership. You'll get access to exclusive speaking videos with natural model answers and structured practice. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.